Welcome to ExcelUp, your ultimate study companion. Whether you're sitting for ZIMSEC or Cambridge, you are in the right place. We provide solved past exam papers, detailed and well-explained notes, clear exam-focused content, easy to follow lessons for all levels. Right, today we are going to look at a transport system in mammals. Right, as you know that the body requires a lot of substances, for example oxygen and glucose, and they need to be distributed to all parts of the body, right? And waste products should be transported to various excretory organs. So in humans we have two transport systems. The first one is called lymphatic system, and this one is responsible for moving tissue fluid, right? And the other one is called cardiovascular system, and we are going to focus on cardiovascular system, which consists of blood vessels and the heart. And right, so lymphatic system inofambisa yatinoti your tissue fluid. Ukata some body munenge muine imwe fluid other than blood, and this fluid zvainoita ndo inopa exchange yemasubstance between the blood and tissues, right? Saka when glucose diffuses into the tissue fluid, andika inozobva yamumu yakupinda pai yakupinda mumacells. And so the cardiovascular, this one is very efficient, and consist of blood which is the fluid medium which transports materials around the body. Saka whatever food or waste products antakurwa are in blood, right? So blood carries proteins, various proteins around the body, and blood vessels which consist of arteries, veins and capillaries, right, carry blood around the body. Then the heart is the pump, right, which forces blood to flow around the body. So the cardiovascular system is very efficient because it has a double circulation, and it's to notate double circulatory system, meaning that the blood is pumped through the heart twice to complete one cycle. And blood inopinda muheart katu kuti complete one cycle. For example, rikatangira kuma lungs, and from the lungs rinodzoka ku heart, robva mu heart roenda to the rest of the body, robva from the rest of the body rodzoka futi pai mu heart, robva mu heart rozoenda kupi, rodzoka kuma lungs. So you can see that riri kupinda mu heart twice to complete one cycle. And it is like a double circulatory system. Simply means that the blood is pumped through the heart twice to complete one cycle. So the blood has to complete the pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation in one cycle, right? Pulmonary circulation, that's the exchange of blood between the heart and the lungs, right? The blood has to be pumped to the lungs. This is got to deliver carbon dioxide so that we can breathe it out. And tatora oxygen, ropika oxygen, then roendesa kupi, roendesa to the heart, right? Ndo inonzi pulmonary circulation kana kuti pulmonary circuit, right? And then richipambwa richienda to the lungs. As you can see, kuti heart nema lungs zviri very close. saka blood rinopambwa richienda to the lungs at low pressure to prevent rupturing of delicate lung respiratory surface, which is alveoli. Alveoli, it's a part yema lungs where gaseous exchange takes place. And right, so radzoka blood ratakura oxygen rakunzi oxygenated blood, right? Paranga richienda kumalungs ranga chinzi deoxygenated blood, ende rinoenda rakatakurwa nepulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs, right? The blood delivers carbon dioxide into the alveoli, then collects oxygen and comes back to the heart via pulmonary vein. So pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, whereas pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood, right? That's pulmonary circulation. Now the other circulation, systemic circulation, now that is the exchange of blood between the heart and the rest of the body, right? And the blood is pumped to the rest of the body at high pressure, since the blood travels to long distances, isn't it? Rikufana kupambwa from the heart runosvika kutsoka, ropambwa runosvika kumusoro, so rinenge rakuda high pressure. And saka richibuda from the heart rinobuda rakatakurwa neaorta, right? Rodzoka rakatakurwa neinonzi vena cava, right? Saka aorta carries oxygenated blood, whereas vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from the rest of the body. And saka yakadai izvi, that's how we define circulatory system and double circulatory system. The blood enters into the heart twice to complete one cycle. The blood enters into the pulmonary circulation or pulmonary circuit, and then systemic circulation, isn't it? So this system, double circulatory system, just to maintain efficiency and to prevents the rupturing or damage, isn't it? Because rikapambwa rine pressure yakakura kuenda kumalungs zviri padhuze nepadhuze, and zvinodamage capillaries kana alveoli, and right. So that's the circulatory system. So let's look at the functions of the circulatory system. Inomboita basa rei this circulatory system? Number one, this circulatory system transports oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? Oxygen is distributed to the rest of the body, where it is used for respiration, and the respiration do process inotipa energy, right? So it requires oxygen, saka inodeliverwa this circulatory system. Then carbon dioxide is a waste product of respiration, and saka haifanira kuchengetwa mubody iri toxic, so we should get rid of it. Inotakurwa futi neblood, right? That's number one. So number one, transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Number two, distribution of nutrients like glucose, amino acids are carried from the intestines and distributed to the rest of the body, right? Then removal of metabolic waste. Metabolic chemical reactions that occur in the body, and it like respiration yachona ndo inonzi metabolic, and inonzi metabolism, and it chemical reactions that occur in the body, like deamination of excess amino acids, respiration, right? So when excess amino acids are broken down, they produce urea, inozobuditswa muurine, and kune mamwe toxins, right? Ekuti mamwe unogona kuita ekuingesta aenda kuliver anobva anofana kuremovwa, anditi, right? Kunoitwa inonzi detoxification, anditika kuti asakuvadza, anditika the body, organs. Saka now tane number 3, right, which is removal of metabolic waste and the maintenance of body temperature. And the temperature yakakosha kuti irambe ichimaintainwa iri constant. Nditika saka body yedu 37.5 inofanira kumaintainwa iri constant. Izvi zvakakosha for enzymes because maenzyme anoda optimum pH, ane optimum pH yaanoshanda ari, because remember all the chemical reactions ari kuitika mubody, right, anoda enzyme controlled, right. Saka those enzymes anofanira kunge aine temperature rekumaintaina iri constant, ende ibasa reblood rekumaintaina that body temperature in constant. Then circulation of hormones, and tine mahormones akawanda mubody. For example, in females there is estrogen, right, and these hormones zvaanoita now chemical substances anoaffecta the activity of a target organ, saka anomove around akatakurwa the blood. Then immunity, right, there's a certain type of blood and is responsible for immunity, fight against diseases and blood clotting in case waita a cut, right, to avoid losing blood or entry of pathogens panofana kuvharika. That's what we call clotting. Ibasa reblood rese irori ndo basa the circulatory system, right. So tingade kutanga explore the heart, right, and the heart, this organ works independent of the brain, right, inoshanda iri independent of the brain because ndo first organ inotanga kugadzirwa ndizoka after fertilization paya just a few weeks panotanga kugadzirwa the heart. Why? Kuti igozopampa blood nemamwe manutrients achienda kuti kune mamwe maorgans achagadzirwa. Saka since yakagadzirwa before the brain inoshanda iri independent of the brain, right. So this heart ine technical features, right, that enable it to function well, right. Mukaitarisa nunga from this diagram you can see it's divided into left side and the right side, right. Remember you're looking at the front part of your heart from the front view and wakatarisa hati yako nekumberi, saka kurwa left side inobva yaenda ku left, right side inobva yaenda ku left, and also wakatarisa your heart front view anditi hati yako, right. So hati zvayakaita pama main parts ainayo tinoona isusu ine 4 chambers, ine 2 atria and 2 ventricles, right. Maatria ndo ari kumusoro, saka there is left atrium and right atrium, and these are thin walled chambers that receive blood from veins, because remember veins carry blood towards the heart, whereas arteries carry blood away from the heart. And so atria now, there is left atrium which receives oxygenated blood from the lungs through the pulmonary vein. Tamboti blood riri kubva kuma lungs rakatakurwa the pulmonary vein, and when you have oxygenated blood inoskodira blood iroro pai mu left atrium. Then right atrium receive deoxygenated blood from the vena cava. Vena cava iri kucollecta blood from the rest of the body younza kupi to the heart, saka this blood rinenge richi deoxygenated, ndo zviripo pa 2 chambers aya. Saka uchaona kuti the left side ine oxygenated blood rabva from the lungs which is laden of oxygen, rakazara neoxygen anditika. And Then ventricles takutaura now thick walled chambers that receive blood from the atria. Saka there is left ventricle that receives deoxygenated blood, right? So the left ventricle, right? Left ventricle could receive oxygenated blood from the left atrium, right? And if you look at it closely, you can see that it has thick cardiac muscle walls, so that it pumps blood under high pressure to reach all parts of the body. Because blood from the left ventricle rinobuda rakatakurwa neaorta, right? Aorta iri kuendesa kupi? To the rest of the body. Saka rinenge ichida pressure. That's why you see that thick cardiac muscle wall iri ku left and iri thicker than iri kupi? Iri ku right. Iri ku right iyo inongopamba blood richienda kuma lungs. Like you said earlier on, kuti malungs neheart zviri padhuze nepadhuze. Saka rakapambwa under high pressure zvinodamage macapillaries and alveoli, right? So the right ventricle now, in this one now, inenge ichireceive blood from the right atrium. This is deoxygenated blood, right? Yobva yapamba blood iroro now paino contractor inobva yapusha blood through pulmonary artery rakananga kupi? Kuma lungs for removal of carbon dioxide, right? In between, right, the right side and the left side, there's a septum. This is a wall between the left and the right, right? And it separates oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Indeed, which means if there's a hole on the septum and it got deoxygenated and oxygenated blood will mix, so that reduce efficiency in the transport of oxygen, right? Saka munhu anenge ari weak handiti, because haukwanisi kurespire handiti, haukwanisi kuita respiration, because respiration tati requires oxygen. Saka kana paita a hole handitika pa septum apo, zoreva kuti oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood is mixing, right? Saka efficiency in the transport of oxygen inobva decrease handiti, right? Then there is pulmonary vein. Tambotaura nezvayo tikati that pulmonary vein iri kutakura blood richibva kupi? Kuma lungs richiuya to the heart rakazara oxygen. Then aorta, the largest artery, right, inotakura blood from the heart to the rest of the body. Then vena cava, that's the largest vein, right? Vena cava, that's the largest vein that brings deoxygenated blood from the rest of the body, right? Then pulmonary artery, right? Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. So you can see that pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery complete the pulmonary circuit, right? Whereas aorta and vena cava no complete our systemic circuit, right? So now, if you look closely, you can see that there are some valves, right? And their function now is to prevent backflow of blood. That's the function of all the valves. Valves prevent backflow, or they ensure that blood flows in one direction. So there is backspeed valve. Backspeed valve prevents the backflow of blood from the left ventricle into the left atrium. Because when the left ventricle squeezes or contracts, should pump blood through the aorta, isn't it? So the speed valve prevents blood from flowing back to the left atrium, right? Then there are semilunar valves. So the semilunar valve between the aorta and the left ventricle. You say when the left ventricle relaxes, right, blood shouldn't flow back from the aorta into the left ventricle. No. So the semilunar valve prevents the backflow of blood from the aorta into the left ventricle, right? And the other one on the right side, there is a semilunar valve between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery, so it prevents backflow of blood from the pulmonary artery into the right ventricle, right? Then tricuspid valve. Now this one just simply prevents the backflow of blood from the right ventricle into the right atrium. So when the right ventricle contracts, blood should flow through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, not to the right atrium. You see, that's the role of valves. All of them prevent backflow of blood. So this is the structure of the heart. So I've looked at its technical features, how it works, right? So it is the left ventricle has thick cardiac muscle wall, right, to pump blood to reach all parts of the body. Then there is a septum to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. There are valves to prevent the backflow of blood. So this is all about the heart, right? Then we move on to the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the chambers of the heart that corresponds to one heartbeat. Handitiutaisa pano kuti unge heart inge ichikwanisa kuproduce a beat, handiri kurova kwehana, right? So coordinated contraction of cardiac muscle around atria and ventricles is controlled by a patch or specialized muscle cells in walls of the right atrium called pacemaker. Remember, we said this one is not coordinated by the brain, but is controlled or coordinated by pacemaker. Right? So the first phase, this is when the atria and the ventricles are relaxed and the atrioventricular valves are open, so that deoxygenated blood from the vena cava flows into the right atrium, right? And then on the second phase now, the right ventricle contracts, right, to push blood through the pulmonary artery, isn't it? Then on third phase now, the semilunar valves close, the atrioventricular valves open, right? Atrioventricular, so it means blood has to flow from the atrio into the ventricles, right? This is a summary of what we have been talking about. Then atrioventricular valves close and the semilunar valves open. Remember, semilunar valves between the ventricles and the pulmonary artery and the aorta, right? So this is how the heart works. So now we need to move on to the blood vessels.